My name is Rosanna, and I am 31 years old. I am sitting at my parents' dining table for Sunday family dinner. Everyone is here. My parents, my sister, my husband, my grandmother. My sister Danielle stands up to make an announcement. The words that follow shatter everything. I am pregnant, she says, and Marcus is the father. The room goes silent. All eyes turn to me. But what nobody knows is that I have been waiting for this moment. Before I tell you what I said next, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from today. And if you want to see how this unfolds, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Trust me, the secret I revealed made my sister face go completely white. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in suburban Minneapolis, I was always the older sister, the responsible one, the one who held everything together. My father Richard worked as an accountant, steady and reliable but quiet. My mother Barbara started as a homemaker before becoming a real estate agent. She was warm, loving, and I always sensed she had a soft spot for my younger sister that she did not quite have for me. Danielle came into the world 4 years after me. From the moment she arrived, she became the center of attention. The baby of the family, the pretty one, the one everyone adored. While I was busy getting good grades and working part-time jobs to save for college, Danielle was busy being the cheerleader, the prom queen, the girl everyone wanted to be around. I do not say this with bitterness. At least I try not to. Because despite our differences, I loved my sister fiercely. I protected her from bullies in middle school when girls made fun of her braces. I stayed up late helping her with homework she never bothered to start until the night before it was due. I covered for her when she snuck out to meet boys our parents would never have approved of. My role was always clear. I was the caretaker, the fixer, the one who sacrificed so others could thrive. And for a long time, I thought that was just who I was meant to be. When it came time for college, I worked 2 jobs to put myself through the University of Minnesota. I studied nursing because I wanted to help people, and because it offered a stable career path. I graduated with honors after 4 grueling years of balancing classes with work. I landed a position in the emergency room at one of the best hospitals in the city. It was demanding work, but I was proud of what I had built. Danielle took a different path. She tried college for 1 year before dropping out. Said it was not for her. Said she needed to find herself. Our parents nodded along supportively. She bounced between jobs after that. Barista at a coffee shop downtown. Sales associate at a boutique. Yoga instructor for exactly 3 months before she got bored. She always had drama following her. Bad boyfriends who treated her poorly. Money problems because she spent faster than she earned. Landlord issues because she forgot to pay rent on time. And every single time, guess who she called? Me. I co-signed her apartment lease when no landlord would trust her credit. I lent her money that was never repaid. I gave her career advice she never followed. And every time I expressed even the slightest frustration, my parents would jump to her defense. She is still finding herself, Rosanna. Not everyone is as serious as you. Why do you have to be so hard on her? I buried the resentment. Told myself that family helps family. That was what good sisters did. That was what good daughters did. By the time I turned 27, I was exhausted. Exhausted from always giving and never receiving. Exhausted from being the one everyone leaned on while no one asked if I needed support. I decided it was time to focus on my own happiness for once. I deserved that much. And then I met Marcus. It happened at a hospital fundraiser gala. I almost did not go. I was tired after a 12-hour shift, and the last thing I wanted was to put on a fancy dress and make small talk with wealthy donors. But my supervisor insisted, said it would be good for my career to network. Marcus was there representing his investment firm. They were one of the major donors that year. I noticed him across the room before we ever spoke. Tall, dark hair, warm smile, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He caught me looking and smiled. He asked me to dance. I said yes. And just like that, my life changed. Marcus made me feel seen in a way no one ever had before. On our first date, he asked me about my dreams, my goals, what I wanted out of life. He listened when I talked about the challenges of emergency nursing. He did not interrupt or try to one-up me with his own stories. He just listened. He was 34 years old, successful driven. He owned his own financial advisory firm. He drove a nice car and had a beautiful condo downtown with a view of the city skyline. Everything about him screamed success. But more than that, he was charming, attentive, romantic in ways I had only seen in movies. After our first date, he sent flowers to my apartment the next day. After our second date, he surprised me with a picnic in the park complete with champagne and strawberries. Within 3 months, I was completely in love with him. I introduced him to my family at Thanksgiving. My parents loved him immediately. My father shook his hand firmly and said it was about time Rosanna found a real catch. My mother fussed over him all evening, asking about his work, his family, his plans for the future. Danielle was there too, of course. And I noticed something I could not quite put my finger on. She seemed less enthusiastic than everyone else, almost cold. When I asked her later what she thought of Marcus, she shrugged. "He seems almost too perfect, does he not?" she said. "Like he is hiding something." I felt my defenses rise immediately. You just cannot stand that I'm happy for. Once I snapped. You have to find something wrong with everything. We did not speak for a week after that fight. Looking back now, I wonder what would have happened if I had listened to her. If I had asked more questions instead of dismissing her concerns as jealousy. But I was so desperate for the fairy tale that I refused to see anything that did not fit the narrative I wanted. I chose Marcus over my sister's doubts. It was the biggest mistake of my life. Marcus proposed after 10 months of dating. He did it on a rooftop under string lights, the city sparkling below us like a carpet of stars. The ring was beautiful. Princess-cut diamond white gold band. Everything I had ever dreamed of. I said yes before he even finished asking the question. We planned the wedding for 6 months later. Nothing too extravagant, just 80 guests at a vineyard outside the city. I wore my grandmother's lace veil, the one she had worn when she married my grandfather 60 years ago. Everything felt perfect, like I had finally gotten the life I deserved after years of sacrifice. Danielle was my maid of honor. I insisted on it, even though things were still tense between us after our fight. I wanted to mend the relationship. I wanted my sister by my side on the most important day of my life. During the reception, I noticed Danielle and Marcus talking a lot. They seemed to be getting along well, laughing at some private joke I was not part of. I brushed it off. They were family now. Of course they would bond. The honeymoon in Hawaii was everything I had hoped for. Marcus was loving and attentive. We spent our days on the beach and our nights wrapped in each other's arms. I came home convinced I had found my happily ever after. But then the cracks started to appear. It was subtle at first. 3 months into our marriage, Marcus started working later. He had more client dinners that ran past midnight. Sometimes he came home smelling like perfume, which he explained away by saying he had been meeting with female clients. I wanted to believe him, so I did. I brought up the idea of starting a family. We had talked about it before the wedding. Both of us wanted children. 2 or 3 we had agreed. A house in the suburbs with a backyard and a dog. But now Marcus kept delaying. "Let us wait until the business is more stable," he would say. "I want to give our kids everything. Next year will be better." Month after month, there was always an excuse. I stopped bringing it up eventually. Figured he just needed time to feel ready. Then I noticed how protective he was of his phone. It was always face down on the table. He changed his password without telling me. When I asked about it casually, he got defensive. "Do you not trust me?" he demanded. "After everything I have done for you." I backed off, felt guilty for even suspecting him. What kind of wife doubted her husband like that? Meanwhile, Danielle started showing up more often. She called me regularly, claiming she just wanted to check in. She came to family dinners she used to skip. I thought she was finally maturing, finally making an effort to be a better sister. I did not realize she was getting closer to someone else entirely. There were other red flags I should have noticed. Financial ones. When we got married, Marcus handled all the money. He was the expert after all. A financial advisor. He said it made sense for him to manage our accounts, pay the bills, handle the investments. I trusted him completely. I contributed my nursing salary to our joint expenses without question. I never asked to see statements, never demanded access to accounts. He was my husband. Why would he lie to me? Then one day my credit card got declined at the grocery store. It was embarrassing standing there with a full cart while the cashier waited and the line behind me grew longer. I called Marcus immediately. He laughed it off. "Fraud alert," he said. "I will fix it right away." And he did. Within hours, the card was working again. But a seed of doubt had been planted. I started paying closer attention after that. I noticed that the mortgage payments came from my account, not his. Same with the car payments, the utilities, the insurance. All of it was funded by my salary. But Marcus supposedly made 3 times what I did. Where was all that money going? I asked once. He gave me some complicated explanation about reinvesting in his business, about tax strategies I would not understand. I nodded along, feeling stupid for questioning him. I should have pushed harder. I should have demanded answers. But I was so afraid of rocking the boat, of being the suspicious wife who ruined her own marriage. That fear kept me quiet for 2 years. Until the phone call. It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I came home early from the hospital after a short shift. The house was quiet when I walked in. I assumed Marcus was in his home office working. I was heading upstairs to change when I heard his voice, low, intimate, coming from behind the slightly open office door. "I know, baby. I miss you too." I froze in the hallway. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "She does not suspect anything," he continued. "Soon, I promise. Just a little longer." My legs felt like they might give out beneath me. But I forced myself to stay still, to listen. "Tonight," he said with a laugh, "I can make an excuse. Tell your sister you are working late again." "Your sister." The words hit me like a physical blow. Your sister. He was talking to someone about me. Someone who called me her sister. There was only one person that could be. I crept back to the front door as quietly as I could, opened it and closed it loudly, announcing my presence. "Marcus," I called out. "I am home." I heard him quickly end the call. When he emerged from his office, his smile was perfect. Easy. Like nothing had happened. "Hey, babe," he said. "You are early." I smiled back. Said something about the shift being slow. Asked what he wanted for dinner. Inside, everything had shattered into a million pieces. But I knew better than to confront him without proof. I had watched enough crime documentaries to know that accusation without evidence just gave the guilty party time to cover their tracks. I was going to get proof, and then I was going to make them both pay. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal while secretly investigating my own husband and sister. I started documenting everything, every late night, every suspicious excuse, every moment when something felt off. I kept a journal hidden in my locker at work where Marcus would never find it. My opportunity came on a Saturday morning. Marcus was rushing out the door for what he called an emergency client meeting. In his hurry, he left his phone on the nightstand. I waited until I heard his car pull out of the driveway. Then I picked up the phone with trembling hands. It was unlocked. He had gotten careless. I went straight to his messages, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I found a contact listed as Golf Buddy. The name seemed innocent enough. The messages were anything but innocent. Explicit photos, romantic declarations, plans to meet at hotels around the city. "I love you" sent back and forth daily. And worst of all, detailed conversations about their future together. 3 years. They had been having an affair for 3 years. It started before our wedding. Danielle knew he was engaged to me and she pursued him anyway. Or maybe he pursued her. At that point, it did not matter who started it. They were both guilty. I scrolled through months of messages, each one more devastating than the last. They talked about me like I was an obstacle to be removed. Marcus complained about how boring I was, how predictable. Danielle agreed, said I had always been the boring sister, the one nobody really noticed. They made plans. Get Rosanna's savings, they said. Drain her accounts. Then file for divorce and be together. I was not a wife. I was a mark. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to my own phone, deleted the evidence of sending from his device, put the phone back exactly where I found it. Then I went to the bathroom and threw up. But I was not done investigating. I needed to know the full extent of his betrayal. The following weekend, Marcus went golfing. His real hobby this time, I assumed, since he took his clubs. I used the opportunity to search his home office. There was a locked drawer in his desk. I had always assumed it contained boring financial documents, work things I would not understand. But now I wanted to see what was inside. I found a tutorial online for picking simple locks. It took me 20 minutes, but I got it open. What I found inside made me dizzy. Folders of financial documents revealed the truth about Marcus's business. It was not thriving like he claimed. It was hemorrhaging money. Had been for years. His fancy car was leased. His expensive suits were charged to credit cards that were maxed out. And those credit cards were in my name. I found applications with my signature on them. Signatures I had never written. He had forged my name to open credit accounts without my knowledge, $72,000 of debt that I was legally responsible for. But it got worse. I found documents for a home equity loan taken out against our house. Our house that I had put my life savings into buying. Marcus had borrowed against it without my consent. According to the paperwork, we were 3 months away from foreclosure. All that money, where had it gone? Hotels, restaurants, jewelry, gifts, all for my sister. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers, but I forced myself to keep searching. I needed everything, every piece of evidence I could find. I accessed his email on the home computer. He stayed logged in, never bothering to sign out because he assumed I would never look. I searched for medical records, thinking maybe I would find something about health issues he had hidden. What I found was so much worse. An email chain from a fertility clinic. An annual follow-up reminder. Thank you for confirming your vasectomy remains effective. The email was dated 6 years ago, before he ever met me, before he ever told me he wanted children someday. Every conversation about waiting, about timing, about building stability first. All lies. He never intended to have children with me. He never could. Which meant if Danielle was pregnant and claiming Marcus was the father, one of two things was true. Either she was lying about who the father was, or Marcus had lied to her too, told her he could have children and she genuinely believed it. Either way, someone was being deceived. I printed the vasectomy confirmation, added it to my growing file of evidence. Then I called in sick to work and spent the day meeting with a divorce attorney. Her name was Karen Westbrook. She came highly recommended by a coworker who had gone through a brutal divorce a few years earlier. I brought everything I had found: the messages, the financial documents, the forged signatures, the vasectomy proof. Karen's face grew more serious with each document I showed her. "Mrs. Hartley," she said finally, "this is fraud. Multiple counts of it. He forged your signature on credit applications. That is a federal crime. The home equity loan without your consent is also illegal. You have grounds for divorce and criminal charges." She told me to get copies of everything. Store them somewhere Marcus could never find them. Open a separate bank account he did not know about. Start moving my paychecks there immediately. I followed every instruction. I rented a safety deposit box at a different bank across town. Stored all the documents there. Changed my direct deposit so my salary went into my new account. Started building my exit strategy piece by piece. But I did not want a quiet divorce. I did not want to slink away and let them live happily ever after while I picked up the pieces of my destroyed life. I wanted them to face consequences, publicly, in front of everyone who mattered. The monthly family dinner was coming up in 2 weeks. It was the perfect stage. The Sunday of the dinner arrived faster than I expected. I woke up that morning with a strange calm settled over me. The anxiety and heartbreak of the past 3 weeks had crystallized into something harder, something colder. I was ready. I dressed carefully. Simple blouse, jeans, minimal makeup. I wanted to look normal, unremarkable. I did not want to give anything away before the moment was right. The folder of documents was in my purse. My lawyer's number was saved on speed dial. Everything was in place. Marcus was his usual charming self as we drove to my parents' house in St. Paul. He talked about work, about some new client he was trying to land. Made a joke about my mother's pot roast being the best in Minnesota. I smiled and nodded in all the right places. Inside, I felt nothing but ice. My parents' house looked the same as always. A modest 2-story in the suburbs where I had grown up. The front yard was neatly maintained, my father's rose bushes showing the last blooms of the season. We walked in to find everyone already there. My grandmother Rose, 83 years old and still sharp as a tack, was settled in her favorite armchair. My parents were fussing over the table settings, making sure everything was perfect. Danielle arrived separately a few minutes after us. She looked nervous, I noticed, fidgeting with her hair, checking her phone constantly. At the time, I thought I knew why. She was planning her big announcement, getting ready to blow up my life in front of everyone. She did not know I was planning the same thing. Dinner started normally enough. My mother's famous pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans from my father's garden. The same meal we had been eating at Sunday dinners for as long as I could remember. The conversation was light. My father talked about the weather. My grandmother mentioned her new book club. My mother asked Marcus about work, and he launched into some story about a difficult client that I knew was probably fabricated. Throughout the meal, I watched Danielle. She barely touched her food. She kept sipping water but refused the wine my father offered. "You are not having any wine tonight, Danny?" my father asked, using her childhood nickname. "Just not feeling it," she said with a forced smile. My mother looked at her with concern. "You look pale, sweetheart. Are you feeling okay?" Danielle took a deep breath. "Actually," she said, "I have something to tell everyone." The table went quiet. I felt my heartbeat accelerate, but I kept my face neutral. My mother set down her fork. "What is it, honey?" Danielle stood up. She always did have a flair for the dramatic. Her hand went to her stomach in a gesture that made my blood run cold. "I wanted to wait until we were all together," she said. "I am pregnant." My mother gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth in what looked like pure joy. "Oh my goodness," she exclaimed. "Congratulations." My father was beaming. "That is wonderful news, sweetheart." My grandmother did not share their enthusiasm. She looked at Danielle with narrowed eyes, the same look she used to give us when she knew we were lying about something as children. "Who is the father?" she asked. "Are you seeing someone we do not know about?" The room went silent again. Danielle's eyes flickered to Marcus for just a moment, so quick that anyone not looking for it would have missed it. I did not miss it. She looked back at the family, took a deep breath, and then she said the words that changed everything. "The father is Marcus." Complete silence. So heavy it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My mother's smile froze on her face. She looked from Danielle to Marcus to me, confusion written all over her features. My father's fork clattered onto his plate. My grandmother's eyes went wide. Marcus shifted in his seat beside me. His face had gone pale, but I could see him calculating, trying to figure out how to spin this. Danielle kept talking, her voice gaining confidence. "We have been together for 3 years, before you even married, Rosanna." She looked at me then, and in her eyes I saw triumph. She thought she had won. She thought this was her moment. I am sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. But I cannot hide it anymore. Not with a baby coming. She turned back to the family. He never loved her, she continued. He was always going to leave her for me. We planned it. Get married, get her savings, then divorce and be together. Every word was a knife. But I felt strangely detached, like I was watching this happen to someone else. Marcus finally spoke. Danielle, what are you? He trailed off, clearly unsure what to say. Do not deny it, she snapped at him. I am tired of pretending. I am tired of sneaking around. We love each other, and now we are having a baby. She looked at me again. I know this hurts, Rosanna, but you should know the truth. He never wanted you. You were just convenient. My grandmother spoke into the silence. You shameless girl, she said quietly. Grandma? You do not understand, Danielle protested. I am tired of always being second to Rosanna. For once I got something she wanted. The table erupted in noise. My mother crying. My father demanding explanations. Marcus trying to say something but getting cut off. Through it all, I sat perfectly still. Then I reached for my water glass. Took a slow sip. Set it back down. The motion was so deliberate that everyone stopped talking and looked at me. Actually, I said, my voice calm and clear. Before we discuss your future plans, I think everyone should see something. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folder I had prepared. Laid it on the table in front of me like a lawyer presenting evidence in court. Danielle's triumphant expression faltered slightly. What is that? She asked. I did not answer her directly. Instead, I opened the folder and removed the first document. This, I said, holding up the paper so everyone could see, is confirmation of a vasectomy Marcus had 6 years ago. The room went completely silent. I let the words sink in before continuing. That is 3 years before he met either of us. According to this medical document, the procedure was successful and has been confirmed effective at every annual follow-up since. I looked at Danielle. Her face had gone white. Which means, dear sister, that whoever the father of your baby is, it is not Marcus. It cannot be. Danielle's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. That is not possible, she stammered. He told me he wanted children with me. He said we would start trying after the divorce. I turned to Marcus. His face was ashen, completely drained of color. For once he had nothing to say. He lied to you, I said to Danielle. Just like he lied to me. My mother was crying harder now. What is happening? She kept saying. I do not understand. I pulled out the next set of documents. But wait, I said. There is more. I held up the credit card statements. These are credit cards in my name. Cards I never applied for. Marcus forged my signature to open these accounts without my knowledge. I spread them across the table so everyone could see. $72,000 of debt, I continued. All charged without my consent. All legally my responsibility because my name is on the accounts. My father grabbed one of the statements, his hands shaking. This is fraud, he said. This is criminal. Yes, I agreed. It is. I was not done. I pulled out more papers. And this is a home equity loan taken out against our house. The house I put my life savings into buying. Marcus took out a second mortgage without my knowledge or consent. My voice remained steady even as the words burned in my throat. According to these documents, we are 3 months away from foreclosure. He drained everything. My savings, my credit, my home. I looked around the table. Everyone was staring at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. Where did all that money go? My grandmother asked quietly. I turned to Marcus. Would you like to tell them? I asked. Or should I? He said nothing. Just sat there, frozen, trapped. I answered for him. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry, gifts, all for Danielle. I looked at my sister. You were not just sleeping with my husband, I said. You were being funded by my destruction. Danielle was crying now, but I felt no sympathy. I did not know about any of this, she wailed. He told me his business was successful. He told me he would take care of everything. I slid my phone across the table to my grandmother. These are screenshots of their messages, I said. 3 years of planning, lying, and scheming. Read them for yourself. My grandmother scrolled through the messages, her face hardening with each one she read. She passed the phone to my father without a word. My father's jaw tightened as he read. When he looked up at Marcus, there was murder in his eyes. "You piece of garbage," he said quietly. Marcus finally found his voice. "I can explain," he started. "Explain what I cut him off. Explain how you married me for my money while sleeping with my sister. Explain how you committed federal crimes to fund your affair. Explain how you lied to both of us about wanting children when you had made sure that was never possible." I stood up from the table. My legs were shaking, but I locked my knees and stayed upright. "There is nothing you can say that will change what you did," I told him. "I have already met with a lawyer. Multiple times. Every document you see here has been copied and stored in a safety deposit box you will never find. My attorney has copies as well." My voice did not waver. "I am filing for divorce Monday morning. I am also filing a police report for financial fraud. The credit card companies have already been notified about the forgeries." Marcus stood up abruptly. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. "This is ridiculous," he said. "I am not going to sit here and listen to this." He started toward the door. My father blocked his path. The two men stood face to face. My father was 62, but he was still strong, still intimidating when he needed to be. "Sit back down," he said quietly. Marcus hesitated. "You cannot keep me here." My grandmother spoke from her chair. "The police certainly can," she said. "What you did to my granddaughter is criminal. Fraud. Forgery. Theft. You are lucky she is not having you arrested tonight." Marcus looked around the room, searching for an ally, finding none. Slowly he sat back down. I turned to Danielle, my sister, the person I had protected and defended my entire life. "Danielle," I said, "I do not know who your baby's father is, but you need to figure that out." She was still crying, mascara running down her cheeks. She looked pathetic, but I could not find it in myself to care. "You need to understand something," I continued. "He was never going to marry you. His plan was to drain my accounts, divorce me, and move on. You were a tool to access my life, my family, my trust." I paused, letting the words sink in. "He played us both." Danielle shook her head. "I thought he loved me," she whispered. "I know," I said. "He told you what you wanted to hear. Classic manipulation. But you still chose to betray me." My voice hardened. "You knew he was my fiancé. Then my husband. Every choice you made for 3 years was a choice to hurt me. I do not know if I can ever forgive you for that." My mother reached for me. "Girls, please," she said through her tears. "We are family." "Family does not do what she did, Mom," I said. "Family does not do what he did." I picked up my purse. "I need time," I said. "And I need space. From both of them." I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back one last time. "Marcus," I said, "my lawyer will be in touch. And Danielle, I hope for your sake that you figure out who the real father is, because you are going to need someone in your corner, and it will not be me." I walked out of my parents' house without looking back. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Marcus called me 17 times before I even got home. I let every call go to voicemail. The messages ranged from pleading to threatening to desperate. None of them changed anything. The next morning, I started executing my plan. I filed for divorce first thing Monday morning, just like I promised. Karen had all the paperwork ready. Given the evidence of fraud, she was confident we could expedite the proceedings. Then I went to the police station. I sat in a small interview room for 3 hours, explaining everything to a detective who took careful notes and asked thoughtful questions. "Mrs. Hartley," he said when I finished, "this is a significant case. We will be opening a formal investigation." The investigation moved faster than I expected. Marcus's business partners were notified. They pulled their own financial records and discovered irregularities I had not even known about. Marcus had been defrauding clients as well as his wife. The forensic accountants found even more. Offshore accounts, hidden investments, money laundering that went back years. Marcus was not just a cheater and a liar. He was a full-scale con artist who had left a trail of victims before me. Karen called me with updates every few days. The credit card companies confirmed the forgeries she told me. The bank is cooperating with the investigation into the home equity loan. Within 2 months, Marcus was facing multiple felony charges. His attorney tried to negotiate a deal. Marcus would repay all the fraudulent debts, plus additional damages to me in exchange for reduced charges. I agreed. I wanted my money back more than I wanted to see him in prison. But he would still have a felony record. His career as a financial advisor was over. His reputation was destroyed. It was not perfect justice. But it was enough. Danielle's unraveling happened more slowly, but it was just as complete. A week after the dinner, she called me. I almost did not answer. But something made me pick up the phone. "Please do not hang up," she said immediately. "I know I have no right to ask, but I need help." She had taken a DNA test. Marcus was definitely not the father. Turned out she had been seeing someone else casually. A bartender named Jake. She did not think it was serious. Used protection, supposedly. But apparently not well enough. Jake wanted nothing to do with a baby. When she told him she was pregnant, he blocked her number and quit his job to avoid running into her. "What do I do?" she asked me, crying. "He does not want the baby. Marcus was a lie. I have nothing." For a moment, I felt the old instinct rise up. The caretaker impulse that had defined my entire life. The urge to fix her problems, make everything okay. But I pushed it down. "Danielle," I said, "I cannot be your fixer anymore. I am dealing with my own devastation. You need to figure this out yourself, or ask Mom and Dad." "But they are so disappointed in me," she wailed. "Mom can barely look at me. I have never seen Dad this angry." I felt a strange sense of peace as I responded. "Those are consequences, Danielle. You made choices, adult choices. Now you deal with adult consequences." I paused. "I love you because you are my sister. But I do not like you right now. And I do not trust you. Maybe someday that will change. But not now." I hung up the phone. It was the first time in my entire life that I had chosen myself over Danielle. It felt terrible and liberating at the same time. 2 weeks later, Marcus made one final attempt. He showed up at my new apartment unannounced. I saw him through this peephole and did not open the door. "Rosanna, please," he called through the wood. I know I messed up. But we had something real. I did love you. Can we at least talk? I pressed my back against the door. "We have nothing to talk about," I said. "Communicate through my attorney. Do you not want to know why he pressed? Do you not want closure?" "I already have closure," I told him. "You are a con artist. I was a mark. End of story. Now leave before I call the police. You have enough charges pending." There was a long silence. Then I heard footsteps retreating down the hallway. I watched from my window as he got in his car and drove away. I felt nothing. In the months that followed, the family dynamics shifted in ways I never expected. My parents called regularly, checking on me, offering support. My father told me he was proud of how I handled everything. "Your grandfather would have done the same thing," he said. "Stand up for yourself, get the evidence, then strike." My mother struggled more with what had happened. She kept apologizing for not seeing Marcus's true nature sooner. She kept trying to make peace between me and Danielle. I told her I was not ready. I might never be ready. She needed to accept that. My grandmother became my biggest supporter. She called every week. "You did the right thing," she would say. "Never let anyone treat you like a doormat. Not even family." As for Danielle, she moved back in with my parents temporarily. Got a job at a department store. Started going to therapy. She decided to keep the baby and raise it alone. But she still made choices. She still knew he was my fiancé, then my husband. She still pursued him, slept with him, planned a future with him while smiling at me across the dinner table. Some betrayals cannot be explained away by manipulation. Some wounds take more than explanations to heal. A year passed. I barely recognized my life anymore, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, that was a good thing. The divorce was finalized after 4 months. Marcus paid back 90% of what he stole. It was all he had left after his business collapsed and his assets were seized. I accepted it. I did not need every penny. I just needed to be free. I used the money to buy a small condo on the outskirts of the city. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a small balcony, a view of a park. But it was mine. Only mine. Every piece of furniture I picked myself. Every color on the walls I chose without consulting anyone. I went back to work at the hospital. Threw myself into nursing with a dedication I had not felt in years. My colleagues were supportive without being intrusive. They knew something had happened, but they did not pry. I was grateful for that. I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Amanda Patterson, and she had a way of asking questions that cut right through my defenses. "You have spent your whole life taking care of other people," she observed during one of our early sessions. "Your sister, your parents, your husband. When did you learn that your value came from what you could give to others?" I did not have an easy answer, but we worked on finding one. In therapy, I unpacked the patterns that had led me to this point. The caretaker role I had assumed since childhood. The way I ignored my own needs to meet everyone else's. The desperate desire for love that made me overlook obvious red flags. It was painful work, but it was necessary. Outside of therapy, I started rebuilding piece by piece. I joined a book club because I had always loved reading but never made time for it. I took pottery classes on the weekends and discovered I was actually good at working with clay. There was something meditative about shaping something beautiful from a formless lump. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with during my marriage. My college roommate Sarah came back into my life like she had never left. I always thought Marcus was weird, she admitted over coffee. Too polished, too charming. But I did not push because you seemed so happy. Would I have listened? I asked. She shrugged. Probably not. You were in love. Love makes us stupid. I laughed for the first time in months. About 6 months after the divorce, something unexpected happened. Danielle reached out again. Not to ask for help this time, just to talk. We met at a coffee shop on neutral ground. She looked different. Tired, yes. The baby weight was still there and she clearly had not been sleeping well. But there was something else too. A softness in her eyes I had not seen before. She told me about the baby, a girl named Sophie. 3 months old. Beautiful and exhausting, and the best thing that had ever happened to her. "I do not expect you to forgive me," she said. "I am not even asking for that. I just wanted you to know that I am sorry. Not just because I got caught, but because I understand now what I did." She looked down at her coffee cup. "I was so jealous of you growing up. You were always the smart one, the responsible one, the one everyone counted on. I felt invisible next to you." She paused. "But that does not excuse what I did. Nothing excuses it. I destroyed your marriage for a man who was using both of us." I listened without interrupting. It was strange to hear her perspective after so many months of anger. "I thought Marcus saw me," she continued. "The real me. I thought he loved me in a way no one else ever had. But you were right. He told me what I wanted to hear. I was just another mark in his game." We sat in silence for a long moment. "I do not know if I can ever fully trust you again," I said finally. "What you did broke something between us that might never heal completely." "I know," she whispered. "But I am tired of carrying anger," I continued. "It is too heavy. So I am choosing to let it go. Not for your sake, but for mine." I looked at her across the table. "Maybe someday we can rebuild something. But it will take time. A lot of time." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. And Rosanna, thank you. for not cutting me off completely, for giving me a chance, even a small one. I did not say anything else, just finished my coffee and left. It was not forgiveness, but it was a start. 3 months later, I met someone. His name was James, 40 years old, high school history teacher. We met through the book club of all places. He had joined on a whim after his divorce 2 years earlier. There was nothing flashy about James, no expensive suits or fancy cars or grand romantic gestures. He was kind and thoughtful and genuinely interested in getting to know me as a person. We went on 5 dates before he even tried to kiss me. I appreciate your patience, I told him one night. I know I am not the easiest person to date right now. He smiled. You are worth waiting for, Rosanna. And besides, I have learned that the best things in life do not come fast. They come slow and steady. I did not know if James was my forever person. It was too early to tell. But for the first time since Marcus, I felt hopeful about the possibility. On the 1-year anniversary of that terrible dinner, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and watched the sunset. So much had changed. I had lost a husband, a home, a sister, and an entire vision of what my life was supposed to be. But I had gained something too. I had gained myself. I learned that my worth was not measured by what I gave to others, that boundaries were not selfish but essential, that starting over at 31 was terrifying but possible, that the people who truly love you do not demand you sacrifice yourself for their benefit. I learned that family can hurt you deeper than anyone else, but that does not mean you have to accept the hurt. You can love someone and still refuse to let them destroy you. Most importantly, I learned that betrayal does not have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning. The thing that breaks you can also be the thing that sets you free. My sister announced her pregnancy at that dinner, expecting to break me. My husband expected me to crumble and accept defeat. Instead, I stood up, revealed the truth, and walked away with my dignity intact. They thought they knew me. Turns out, I did not even know myself. But I do now. And I like who I have become. The woman who refuses to be anyone's doormat ever again. So let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that changed the course of your life? Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when everyone expected you to stay silent? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. Thank you for watching until the end. Thank you for being part of this community. I wish you strength, I wish you peace, and most importantly, I wish you the courage to always choose yourself. Take care of yourselves. And remember, sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best awakenings.